If this motherfucker mentions old school RuneScape, I quit.
Next up, we have old school RuneScape.
All right, for the next video, boys, I do need to show you the thumbnail. He got us with the thumbnail. All right, in fairness, he did get us with the thumbnail.
Why would you want to?
But this is Lucky Ghost again. It says the best MMOs to play without friends. You know that BDO is on this list. You know that Black Desert is on this list. The question is where?
Play an MMO solo in 2024. Let's start with that, because the truth is a lot of us end up spending most of our time playing our MMOs by ourselves. Whether it's on purpose or not, we log into these massively multiplayer online worlds and then do solo activities like questing or farming some rare cosmetic. And a lot of us spend very little time doing the group activities in MMOs like raiding. So why play an MMO? In my opinion, it's because it gives us the option to scratch that
I was gonna say, you have the option to play with other people, but you never explore that option, but you need the option there. You know what I mean? Like, it makes you feel better internally. You have less depression to struggle with, because like you could accidentally your way into an friend
itch if and when we want to. But also, we love the idea of a never-ending RPG, of developing a character over months and years as the story constantly unfolds ahead of it. Year after year, new stories, quests, and abilities are added, and that never-ending nature of an MMORPG is truly unique to the genre. Not only that, that epic cosmetic or mount that you farmed is much more satisfying to use when there's someone actually around to see it. The massively multiplayer part of the MMO is great, but the fact that all of that work that we put into the character isn't discarded after a week or two, like in a single player game, is at least as important. So which MMOs do the best job of providing endless high?
Well, the reason that I like solo player content in a game like this, like in an MMO, is because I'm just going to be honest, I just play more than everyone else does because I'm a fucking degenerate. And I don't want to have to stop playing because all of my friends had to go to some loser job or something and like make money. Like me, dude.
Quality content for the solo player, whether they're the player that doesn't have friends to play with or the player that does have friends, but those friends are always way ahead or way behind them. Let's dive into them. Here's my updated list of MMOs to play without friends in 2024, in no particular order. First up, Guild Wars 2.
No particular order. Okay,
mounts, gliding, and vertical zones. Guild Wars mounts have set the bar for what mounts should be. If you enjoyed dragon riding in WoW's Dragonflight expansion, you have Guild Wars 2 to thank for that. Guild Wars 2 just released its well-received Secrets of the Obscure expansion, adding to a long list of amazing solo content. Guild Wars 2 is yet another MMO with a heavy focus on the story it tells. Fairly unique to Guild Wars 2 is that not only are the characters around you voice acted,
look how much fucking cooler the mounts are, man,
but so is your character. This adds a lot to each piece of the story you encounter, as you can hear the pain, the frustration.
On God, it has the best mounts in the genre.
And the laughter coming from your character's voice. Guild Wars 2 has some of the most fun single-player zone exploration out of all the MMOs on this list. You can solve jumping puzzles to get to secret loot, and zone completion is insanely fun and rewarding as it
They know who they're selling to.
Provides points for upgrading both your character and your mount. When you get to the game's first expansion, you'll get a glider, which allows you to jump off anything and everything, and trust me, you will. You can solo your way through the entire story of Guild Wars 2, but it does have meta events where 100+ players.
I disagree. Monster Hunter has the best mounts. Well, Monster Hunter World didn't have mounts, and Monster Hunter Rise didn't exist. So, I'm just kidding. Rise is a good game too, but it's not an MMO. The only Monster Hunter that's had mounts to this date, I'm fairly certain, is Rise, and that is definitely not an MMO.
Will meet up to take down dragons the size of high rises. I know you're a solo main, but trust me, when you see one of these events happening, you're gonna want to run over and join in. It's a ton of fun. Guild Wars 2 has a community that loves their MMO perhaps more than any other MMO community I hear from. They're very vocal about it, and maybe there's a reason. The first 80 levels and over 200 hours of content are completely free, so jump in and try it if you haven't yet. It's an amazing game. There's no sub, not even an optional sub, but you will have to buy.
Don't you love doing solo player strikes in Destiny? It's so much fun to grind out all of your gear.
The expansion content if and when you play it after you hit level 80. Next up, we have Final Fantasy 14.
That's what the cat girl looks like. Okay.
This game is the embodiment of why say in 10 words what you could say in 100. But first, now, while this game is amazing, sometimes you just want something that you can play on the...
Oh, what the f is that hair? Look at how perfect his hair is. This is bullshit. It's almost insulting.
Final Fantasy XIV is what many players refer to as an RPG MMO. The story absolutely comes first, and there is a lot of it. Every bit of content...
All you really do alone in Final Fantasy is the story, right? You don't really do anything else alone, right? Like, how are you going to ERP by yourself?
Content in the game is unlocked as part of the story. Want to do a dungeon? Follow the story. Want to do a trial? Same thing. And in 2024, Final Fantasy XIV is getting a massive new expansion, making now the perfect time to hop in and catch up before its release. If you've ever logged into an MMO and not been sure what you were supposed to do first, you don't have to worry about that in Final Fantasy XIV. The answer is always, in part or in whole, the main story quest. There's hundreds of hours of content there alone, and that's before you get into all of the optional stuff like side quests or cosmetic and mount farming, which Final Fantasy does better than just about any other MMO out there. All the best cosmetics and all the best mounts are earned in game. I mention that because this alone adds so much.
That's fair, but Guild Wars 2 still has the best mounts.
The solo experience, as you have so many mounts.
What does ERP mean? It means you sit in a room with a cat girl and pretend that you're like the player that you are in the game. And you do activities.
And cosmetics that you can work your way towards, even as a solo player in Final Fantasy XIV. Now, it's worth noting that since the dungeons and trials are part of the story, even a solo player will have to do those. Fortunately, the game makes this process incredibly painless, as it automatically creates a group for you to do the content with. And if you're reluctant to group with other players because you've played with people that were mean in the past, I will say, Final Fantasy's community is without a doubt the nicest I've experienced in any MMO, because the developers actively ban toxic players. It's not like a lot of...
What a fucking concept. Holy shit. Can we get can we get that over in BDO, please? Holy moly, dude.
A lot of MMOs where they say they'll ban him. No. If someone talks crap to the group at the end of a dungeon and you report them, that player will, without a doubt, get banned.
Welcome back, Smithy.
It's such a simple thing that makes all the difference. As a result, something weird happened. Random groups are really nice to each other in Final Fantasy.
Honestly, it might be above your desk depending on how big the bulge is, but we won't get into that.
Fantasy XIV. It's a unique vibe in the MMO landscape that you kind of have to experience to believe. Now, if the idea of doing dungeons with even nice players is still something you'd rather avoid, Final Fantasy XIV has this thing called the trust system for you solo players that lets you queue into group content with a group of NPCs, allowing you to avoid nearly all human interaction if you so desire. If you're in the
Okay, there you go. You don't even ever have to play this massive multiplayer online game with any other people.
Mood for an amazing decade-long story with a fantastic
Holy
cast
shit.
of characters, an unforgettable score, and some of the most epic cutscenes in any MMO ever, check out Final Fantasy XIV. Final Fantasy XIV's last expansion was its most successful ever, so there's never been a better time to jump in. They recently extended the free trial to include the first 70 levels and the first 2 expansions. After that, you will have to purchase the game, and you will have to pay for a subscription if you want to keep progressing.
If this motherfucker mentions old school RuneScape, I quit.
Farther. Next up, Elder Scrolls Online. PC, Mac, Xbox, and PlayStation. Furries, scalies, and drunk Nords running around Skyrim.
What?
Elder Scrolls Online is another MMO that focuses on the story first and group content second. 2024 is a great year to dive into ESO. It's coming off the heels of an amazing 2023 where they added a great new class and an endless dungeon. But possibly even more important,
Ultima Online? Ultima Online spelled with an A, dumbass.
is that 2024 is going to be ESO's 10-year anniversary, and I'd wager they'll go big for their 10-year expansion. In Elder Scrolls Online, you can go to any zone in any order, as each zone story is a compartmentalized experience. This means the long-jumping Morrowind fans can start in Morrowind, the stealth archers can start in Skyrim, and the people who have no idea what I'm talking about can begin their Daedric education. ESO is a theme park MMO, which means you've got a ton of different options that you can choose from every time you sign in. You can go do quests, you can go do delves, dungeons, trials, or anything you want. They are adding...
Wait, isn't that the definition of a sandbox MMO? I thought a theme park MMO was supposed to be like super driven. They're going to tell you what to do and then you go do it. He just described a
New
sandbox to
content
me.
every quarter, so you never have to worry about running out of things to do. While the group content does offer a lot of great experiences and amazing gear, you are by no means required to engage with any of it. You can stick to the solo questing activities exclusively if you so desire. If you want to make friends, that's easy too, as ESO lets you join 5 guilds at a
I don't
time
want
so
friends.
that you can be in a specific guild for each type of activity you want to engage in, whether it's dungeons,
Unless they're female, in which case I would like some friends.
role play, the economy, or you name it.
Female optional.
ESO's questing is very easy, perhaps too easy, so it makes for a very relaxing experience that is much more about the story than the combat. On the bright side, every single line of NPC dialogue
He
is
hit the water, so he didn't take any damage. This makes sense.
voice acted, and there are some pretty massive names voice acting these characters. Names like Kate Beckinsale, Nolan North, Linda Carter, and John Cleese.
Kate Beckinsale's voice is in this game. I'm downloading it. Hold on.
If you've enjoyed Elder Scrolls games before, you'll be very familiar with the lore, of which there is a ton to soak up as you play this game. In fact, I'd argue that it's a lot easier to soak up the lore as a solo player. You can slow down to listen to every line of dialogue, and you can stop to read the lore note that you found along the way. You can usually pick up the base game for less than $10 when it's on sale, $20 when it's not.
Is ESO a subscription based, or is
And
it
if
just
you
buy to
enjoy
play?
it, you can spring for the sub to get all the DLCs, more than doubling the size
you
of
have
the
to buy all the
game.
DLCs.
The sub
Okay.
is optional, but you'll find that inventory management is tough without it, and a lot of the coolest items and the best gear are tucked away into that expansion content. Still, even without the sub, the base game by itself provides
How much money is the game plus all the expansions?
hundreds of hours of Elder Scrolls content. If you enjoy Elder Scrolls games and you're not expecting a Skyrim clone, you'll probably enjoy soloing your way through Elder Scrolls Online. If you're enjoying this video, consider
much.
liking the video and subscribing for more MMO content. I've got some
You know what? I
amazing
think I
videos
will.
coming up about the
The dude
future of the
hasn't
MMO
mentioned it.
genre. Next up, we have Old School
Son of a
RuneScape.
bitch!
2000
Stop playing RuneScape. Stop doing it. Jesus Christ. Go play another game.
2013
Bro,
PC, Mac,
This
Linux.
shit- look at that game. Go play. You have a 4090 in your fucking computer. Stop playing this game.
iOS and Android. Old school graphics, old school leveling, old school RuneScape. Old school RuneScape is a sandbox MMO where you can sign in and do
It's fucking disgusting.
anything anytime. If you're not a fan of
Actually
following a
disgusting.
linear quest line through an MMO, or your aging computer has less computing
I don't even have to like have great graphics in a game. This is pathetic.
power than your new toaster, this might be the perfect
It looks like a middle school project. That's because the rest of us were playing it when we were in middle school.
MMO for you. That's not to say there aren't quests, as there are over 150 story-driven quest lines in old school RuneScape. You can focus on skilling, which is basically improving your character's various different skills. Want to be
You mean like life skilling in BDO?
better at something? Have your character do that thing, a lot of that thing, and it will be. This is the most classic feature.
Yeah, so you could play BDO and have an objectively better system, better looking game, better mechanics, better everything. Or you could play this, where we don't even know what the we're looking at.
MMO on the list today, as RuneScape was originally released in 2001. Thanks to its old age and thus modest computational demand, this MMO can even be played on your phone. Because of these very low device requirements and the slower nature of the game in general, this is definitely one of the most accessible MMOs on this list today. You can group up with others, or you can choose to go it alone,
Honestly, depressingly true.
as almost all of this game's content is soloable.
Black Desert Online is less popular than old school RuneScape.
If you want it to be. Old school RuneScape is free to try, but if you enjoy it, you'll have to buy its subscription, known as a RuneScape Bond, if you want to continue progressing. Next up, we have a game that you've undoubtedly heard of, World of Warcraft, 2004 PC and Mac.
No.
Or the Horde, or the Alliance.
I never saw World of Warcraft as a crazy good solo MMO.
Which passionate side
No
will you
shot.
choose? For a long time, World of Warcraft was the uncontested king of the MMO sphere, dwarfing its competition in terms of player count. Today, it's
No,
still
I didn't,
massive,
Spirit.
though it's definitely not the uncontested titan that it once was. WoW's last expansion, Dragonflight, was one of the best open world questing and exploring experiences I found in any
Yeah, I really don't feel like WoW is really a solo player experience. I tried to play it solo. It's not really doable.
MMO to date. 2024 is going to be a huge year for WoW because Blizzard has announced a trilogy of expansions coming starting in
I honestly don't know how Rav the Avatar did it. The dude just literally basically soloed it all the way to 60.
2024. WoW has been around since
With notable
2004, and as a result has a massive amount of content that you can do solo. This includes, of course, tons and tons of questing, and also the ability to go back and solo old dungeons and raids while you're on the hunt for cosmetics, pets, and mounts. WoW's questing isn't quite as immersive as Elder Scrolls, Guild Wars, or SWTOR, but it's more immersive than MMOs like RuneScape, BDO, or Lost Ark. Where WoW wins hands down is its massive, seamless open world for you to explore with thousands of collectibles to farm. If you can see a place, you can fly to it, no matter how far away it is. Zone walls just aren't a thing. WoW features a ton of group
That's kind of just like standard to MMOs in general.
content, and it's adding Final Fantasy XIV's trust system so that you can enjoy a lot of that group content without having to play with other players. If you decide to play with other players, WoW does provide the ability for you to queue into dungeons and raids, so coming into WoW without friends won't prevent you from doing any of the game's content if you want to. WoW features a very brief trial, allowing you to play up to 20 levels for free, so you can get your toes wet before spending any money. After that, you'll need to purchase the game and a subscription to continue playing.
Yeah, so flying around definitely looks really cool, yeah.
Next up, we have Star Wars: The Old Republic. Lightsabers, space, and the Force. Star Wars: The Old Republic, or SWTOR as it's known, is a story-driven MMO about, well, Star Wars.
I played SWTOR. There's no shot.
It features familiar Star Wars music and atmosphere, so if you're a fan of the Star Wars franchise, you'll immediately feel at home in this MMO.
Yeah, I felt at home until I got absolutely... The word we used back then was pwned by a goddamn bounty hunter with a... I'm wearing... I got a lightsaber on. And motherfucker just hit me with like a flèche weapon. I just...
In fact, the music is so Star Wars that I can't even play it because I'll get DMCA'd, hence the random music playing behind this section of the video. You can play through the entire story as a solo player, and worth mentioning is in Star Wars, each class has its own storyline, and
I'm over here thinking, wow, this is an interesting music choice.
Each storyline has 3 different possible endings. The choices you make as you play through it will determine the ending that you earn. When you ask Star Wars players what their favorite part of the game is, it's usually these robust class stories. Star Wars: The Old Republic is now a free-to-play MMO with an optional sub, though if you do sub for just 1 month, you'll unlock all the content and get access to it forever, even after the sub expires. This is another MMO where questing is simply too easy. You can feel like you're just going through the motions while you're in combat because they've dumbed the
that motherfucker, yeah, he did what the rest of us did.
Questing experience down way too much. This is all salvaged by focusing on the story that the questing
Scoundrel was fun, Gunslinger was fun. Yeah, they were great and everything, and you basically had to play them because they were objectively better than all of the Jedi or Sith classes.
experience offers rather than the combat.
Ridiculous.
SWTOR has had a rough year, with the developers handing the game off to another studio to oversee its final years. The future of the game has never been more uncertain. Regardless, the solo story that is there now is excellent and definitely worth enjoying if you're ready to dive into a good Star Wars story. Next up, we have Black Desert Online.
Yeah, my man, we made the list. We have no friends.
Beautiful waifus and beautiful combat.
That's
Black Desert
true.
Online is the perfect MMO for solo players because it's an MMO that was actually designed to be played solo. Group content in this MMO is almost non-existent and definitely plays second fiddle to the solo grinding that they built the game around. 2023 saw BDO add a lot of additional story-centric questing for the solo player in its Land of the Morning Light expansion. So in 2024, you'll have plenty to do as a new player. But what if you're
That wasn't a Pegasus, was it? This motherfucker didn't kill a flying horse, did he?
one of those players that hates questing? Do you prefer posting up in an area and grinding
Shut the fuck up. He played a shitload of this. All right, he got all the way to level 35. Do you know how hard that is?
out mobs for experience? If so, BDO is the perfect MMO for you because that's exactly what it wants you to do. Round up groups of mobs and knock them down. One thing to note,
My dude can literally hit Y and get on a Pegasus right now. And he said, fuck that. I have an available mount to redeem in my inventory. Hold my beer.
however, is that in BDO, once you reach a certain level, the game does become full PvP. Anytime you're grinding XP out in the world, someone could come and kill you, or you could go and kill them. Now, the punishment for dying is next to nothing, so it's not a big deal. If you do die, you just revive.
That is true. It is next to nothing. Assuming you write off the 5 billion silver Girins tier that you lost. But aside from that, nothing.
And you get back to it, but I know some people are definitely not going to appreciate the mandatory PvP experience, so it's
Holy shit. Nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. Don't worry, Lucky. I'm the only one that caught it. Just keep playing. Just keep rolling the footage.
worth mentioning.
You're
BDO
gonna
is a
be fine,
gorgeous
man.
MMO with a decent enough story, but
Holy key evasion
It's
roll.
most commonly praised for the look and feel of its combat. You can even play BDO on mobile, but it's a different version of the game tailored to mobile devices, and it's not cross-platform. So you'll not be able to play with PC players if you're playing on mobile and vice versa. The gear upgrades system.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, because if I ever got beat by someone playing on a phone, I would be pissed.
Is one of those chance-based gambling systems that a lot of players are going to hate or love. The game is currently buy to play with an optional monthly subscription. If you're looking for something that's different, beautiful, and has amazing combat, maybe try grinding out some levels in Black Desert Online. Next we have Lost.
He says some levels because he's only gotten to level 35, but he's not giving a review of the game. Everything he said was absolutely true, 100%.
Arc, massive weapons.
BDO has a subscription. He said optional subscription. Actually, we have 3.
Massive spells and massively pay to win. Lost Ark is a free-to-play top-down ARPG MMO. If you've enjoyed
Isn't Lost Ark like all the shit is like you have to be in groups, right?
Diablo likes before, this
there's no
isometric
shot that you can play Lost Ark solo, right? Like there's just no way, and like get the good gear.
perspective will feel familiar, but that's about where the similarities to Diablo end.
like-
Lost Ark is much more of an MMO than an ARPG. You have hundreds and thousands of hours of progression tucked into this game if you want it.
Zero chance. Ellie's been listening the whole time.
There's a lot of content that you can do solo in Lost Ark, but there's also a ton of content that requires you to
Also, my Ellie Bear shipped, and I will let you know when it gets here.
group up with other players. Fortunately, this is all handled by the game, and you don't need to bring friends with you to enjoy it. Lost Ark is an MMO with tons for you to
I really do think you need to have some friends. Well, the people that you call friends. Also, is this even legal on Twitch? Is that a guy or a girl? It's part of the game. It's fine.
do every day. I would even argue it's got too many dailies, but they aren't required. You can choose zone completion.
Channing, you need exclamation point Jesus, buddy. There's help available for you 24 hours a day, big dog.
Cosmetic farming, sailing, life skilling, leveling, questing, you name it. It lets you do everything your typical MMO lets you do, and then some. With a lot of grinding, you can even play this game for completely free. But if you tend not to enjoy pay to win, then you may want to choose one of the other MMOs on this list. This year, I'm adding New World to the list of fantastic solo MMOs. This one is very satisfying to play
I think New World probably could be played solo for the most part, except for the dungeons,
solo,
right?
but for a different reason than those above. The questing experience isn't as strong
sure
as
that's
some of the
doable.
previously mentioned MMOs, but it's getting better every year as it's been a big focus for the game.
Yeah, I think
Every
Lost Ark is capping. There's no shot.
patch since launch has been
If
aimed
you spell Ultima with a U one more time, Bobby, I will literally ban you.
at improving the solo experience, making group content more optional while adding more solo content to do. Where New World really stands out is its open world exploration and its crafting and gathering progression. There isn't another MMO with a more satisfying crafting and gathering system. You can go out and mine in the mountains, chop trees in the forest, or fish next to a waterfall. It's a great source of relaxing solo content that you can chip away at whenever you have the itch. And thanks to the fact that there is no subscription, it's the perfect game to play
Thought I was joking.
on and off when you feel like it without feeling like you're wasting money every time you're not playing it. New World is night and day better than it was at launch, with its Brimstone expansion in 2022 and perhaps more importantly its new expansion in 2023 that finally added mounts. New World is starting to feel like a polished MMO. Except for this. This is somehow still a thing. It features satisfying
It's fine.
action
We
combat
don't need to swim. We can just
that's
walk
easy to learn
through the
and
water.
hard to master.
Like Jesus before us.
So if you want to explore a gorgeous, seamless, open world and level your gathering professions, or if you love games with amazing crafting system,
I've definitely considered New World, but I think I would probably play Lost Ark before I play
New World could be the perfect game for you to solo
Since I'm a streamer, I could exploit that fact and have people carry me through the dungeons.
your way through. While it seems totally contrary to the entire point of an MMO, more and more these days it feels like soloing in an MMO is what we spend most of our time doing. The MMO landscape has changed a lot in 2023. Now we are jumping into 2024. More and more content is built for the solo player, and less is built for the group player. How has that affected your view of solo content? Do you think it's good or bad for the genre?
I like to have the option to play like with friends because then I can like have less depression knowing that I have that option. But like, let's be real, 98% of the time it's alone.
Let me know in the comments below. I may feature your response in a future video. Here are some great responses from last time I made a video like this. As always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for your comments, and be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more MMO content. A massive shout out to my channel.
I would say this is a good video. I disagree with like Lost Ark fundamentally, but like I I haven't played a crazy amount of Lost Ark. You just got a download ratio is reasonable. Yeah, it's a good video. We love Lucky Ghosts. We love Lucky Ghosts.